scary and horrific things in this world. Take your pick. But there's a very specific kind of nightmare fuel that crawls straight up under your skin. And it's not monsters hiding in the dark, not aliens annihilating everything with lasers. It's the idea that the people around you look the same, but something about them just isn't right. They talk the same, they know your name, their skin sits right, but your brain is screaming, "This isn't them." The longer you look, the clearer it becomes that the person you know is gone, and something else is using their body, pretending to be them. There's a pressure in their stare when looking at you, like you're being sized up, like this thing understands exactly how close it can stand near you without making you run. You're looking back, and perhaps you're not wondering if it's fake anymore, but the certainty settles in your chest. This thing is here on purpose, and you're standing within its reach. This thing is an imposter, a fake. That's the kind of fear that doesn't go away when the lights turn back on. If you're feeling uneasy, hold on to that feeling, because it'll make sense in a minute. This idea shows up everywhere. Doppelganger, shapeshifters, clones. Games like Fallout, for example, where synths replace people and blend in so well that entire towns turn paranoid. Or movies like Terminator, where it can mimic any living thing. But one of the simplest examples of this fear in a plausible everyday scenario is actually a late 90s movie most people probably half remember, The Faculty. In The Faculty, teachers at a high school start acting off. They look the same, they sound the same, but they're colder, more coordinated, less human. And the horror isn't that aliens exist, oh no, it's that the students realise the adults they trust, or at least knew, people who were supposed to protect them, might already be gone, replaced by something controlling their minds. That's the moment the movie becomes genuinely uncomfortable, because it taps into a fear that feels way too real. That exact experience, that certainty that someone close to you or someone you know well is just a facade concealing a different and unknown entity pulling the strings from the background. And in today's video, this isn't just a cool movie concept, but rather a real condition, and it's called Capgras syndrome. People with Capgras don't just feel distant from their loved ones, they're convinced that someone they care about, a parent, partner, even a child, has been replaced by a perfect copy. Not a lookalike, not someone pretending, but an actual imposter. And the strange part is, despite seeing them and recognizing their face, they definitely know who they're looking at. However, emotionally, nothing connects. And that's the key. Normally, when you see someone familiar, your brain does two things at the same time. It recognizes the face, and it triggers a feeling of familiarity. You don't notice that second part because it's automatic. But in people with Capgras, that emotional response is missing. Researchers think Capgras happens because the part of the brain that recognizes faces gets cut off from the part that feels familiarity. So a person can look at someone they know and recognize every detail, but feel absolutely nothing. So the brain is left with a problem. I know who this person is, but they don't feel like them. And instead of concluding, something in my brain isn't working right, the mind reaches for a more convincing explanation. They must be fake. They must have been replaced. Which is why stories like The Faculty work so well. They're built around a single idea. What if recognition and familiarity stopped lining up? And with Capgras syndrome, this is what happens when the emotional part of recognition breaks and your brain tries to make sense of it. This condition, as rare as it is, can be the definition of nightmare fuel. Because in reality, it's tapping into a real weakness in how the human brain works. Because if your mind can look at someone you love and decide they're a replacement, then the scariest part isn't the imposter, it's how your brain can convince you that they are in fact what you suspect. Thanks for watching.